This is Live from the Table, the official podcast of the world-famous Comedy Cellar. Available wherever you get your podcasts. Available on YouTube. Also available on demand on Sirius. We're no longer on Sirius on their schedule, but we are available on demand. This is Dan Naturman, of course, with Noam Dworman, the owner of the Comedy Cellar, Periel Aschenbrand, our producer, and with us in studio, and I always prefer in studio to Zoom. Or,
it's much better, but is Kat's camera too high? Oh, whatever.
I don't know, but
No, not whatever.
Okay.
Max, is Kat's camera too high?
Well, it's too late now.
Anyway, we're with Kat
Hey.
Timpf,
Yes.
writer, comedian, libertarian commentator, co-panelist at Gutfeld, author of You Can't Joke About That, Why Everything is Funny, Nothing is Sacred, and We're All in This Together. And her latest book, I Used to Like You Until, How Binary Thinking Divides Us.
Yes.
Now, I have a question.
Yeah.
Why would Periel choose to walk behind you when you're the one talking in the camera when she could have walked this way?
Well, you'd have to take that up with Periel. I don't know.
Anyway, so, and we also left out of Kat's resume that she was a writer for the National Review for a while.
For a long time. I was.
Which I don't know if you still are, but that was quite a...
Well, that's not in the official
I've just
bio that was sent to me by Periel.
Yeah, I've just been writing books now, so...
Kat's book is very successful. I sent her a picture because I was at a swimming pool. My God, I traveled so much. I don't remember where I was. Was it Vegas? Or was it? It was over the summer.
Well, I don't know.
I remember
but you saw somebody reading Kat's book.
Yeah, and I saw somebody reading Kat's book.
It's a New York Times bestseller.
They both are.
Where was it? Oh, maybe no. It was Turks and Caicos. I was
Nice.
I did a lot of traveling lately. It was the Turks and Caicos, and I said, I know you. He says, you know Kat Timpf? Well, yeah, I know her. She's aight.
Noam, I hope you don't mind if I take the lead. Normally, you do all the lead taking, but since this was a guest that I chose and I read her book,
Go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
you read it.
I read the book. I read it a
Oh.
couple of weeks ago, so I might have, and I read it electronically. And I'm told that reading books electronically, it doesn't, you don't retain it as well.
So, by the way,
Is that true, Noam?
That's true. We're taping this before the election, just so everybody knows. And I'm wondering, do you have any predictions about the election?
Yeah. I know, but I did think Trump was going to win. I did think he was going to win, for sure.
I would just like to point out
That would be
very
a great episode.
Yeah.
this state, yeah, that's great.
This many points.
I would just like to point out very briefly that in all of my years here, I have never seen you write down any questions.
I have written down
He
questions.
read the book.
I
which,
read.
like,
I have written
people
down
don't
questions.
always read the book. People will sometimes. I'll be there interview me about the book, but they don't know what
Yeah.
the book is.
Well,
But yeah, you take the lead. But we are going to talk about the election, right?
Of course we are.
Okay, go ahead.
yes,
But
but
it's not in the book.
It's not in the book. Now, this first question is not directly related to the book, but it's a question I asked of Dave Smith when he was here.
okay.
Because he's also a self-styled libertarian.
Yeah.
Now, Dave Smith is all over so happy about Trump. Trump winning.
Yeah.
Right?
He's.
Over the last 3 years, he's called for Donald Trump to be tried for war crimes and impeached 3 different times. And now he's all... Anyway, go ahead.
He changed his mind. It seems.
Yeah, he clearly did. But he doesn't allow other people to change them.
So libertarian, I still don't quite know what a libertarian is. How does it differ from just somebody that wants a small government? Say just your average conservative who believes in small
To
government.
me, it doesn't, but I just don't think conservatives really believe in small government and a lot of things. Like, I'm just for small government across the board. I want, like, the smallest government possible. And I'm not a member of the Libertarian Party either, because they're embarrassing, honestly. They're, like,
You didn't vote for.
like, let's be honest.
You didn't vote for Oliver Chase or Chase Oliver?
I did. I wrote it.
Was it Oliver Chase or Chase?
Chase Oliver. I wrote it in.
okay.
Is he gonna win? No. But I couldn't vote for either one of them. And I feel that way every time.
But you work at
Every
Trump
time.
Central.
I get that.
Including for Mr. Trump Central.
Here's the thing. That's why I wrote this book, is because I just get shit from both sides. I get shit from viewers because, I'm not going to vote for Trump and therefore I'm like a bad person.
Does Greg know?
Yeah, he does.
Okay.
They know. Everybody knows. I talk about it on the show, but then I get shit from people on the other side because I worked there in the first place. That I'm a fascist.
Can you make a moral case for voting third party in other words, if all you're doing is throwing your vote away, wouldn't it be better to say to yourself, who is the better candidate of the two realistic candidates?
Because I don't think there is one. And I also think that I vote in New York, dude. Like everyone's throwing their vote away. You know what I mean? Like you can call New York for the Democrat. You know, I'm calling it for the next election. I'm calling it right now. I'm calling New York for the blue candidate.
Well, Reagan flipped it. Is there anybody else that's turned New York Republican since Reagan in 1980?
Not since Reagan. No, I don't believe so. No.
Right now, I'm calling it next election. It's like whatever.
For Trump in 2028.
Oh, yeah, that's right. There's never going to be another election. Both sides said there was never going to be another election. Yeah. There will be another election. There would have been another election of Kamala.
Polymarket predicts another election.
Yeah, there's gotta be another election. But it's you know I get why, and I write a lot in the book about why people do this, and some of it, the moral outrage, people feel better about themselves. Like if you can. Studies show this, but you don't really need studies, right? When you direct your outrage at a third-party target, you feel better. You don't have to actually think about what you could do about the problem or how you're not doing anything about the problems of the world.
Yeah. So now, is there any advantage to voting for Oliver Chase as opposed to just not voting at all and doing what Noam?
I used to not vote, but then I'm like, I don't want them to think that I'm lazy. Yeah. Like, I know they're not paying attention to me, but I'm going to go out there and I'm going to say, and I write in my cat's name for all the other candidates. I wrote in my cat, my 14-and-a-half-year-old
Sheen.
cat. Cheens, yes. He's
Cheens. If
same
you follow
cat.
Cat on social media,
is your cat's name Cat Timpf?
It's Cheens.
Oh,
His name is
Cheens Timpf.
His name is Cheens Timpf. He's 14-and-a-half. I won't let him die no matter how much he wants to.
Now I just want to add, now my children are disappointed in me
for not voting.
Okay.
I almost want them to know, you're 6 months pregnant.
Yeah.
Are you going to keep it?
Yeah.
But you don't have to in New York.
I'm still kind of.
You are
like,
a libertarian.
I found myself talking to my sister. I'm
you
like,
gotta decide.
I found myself being like, well, when I have kids, and I still am thinking of it as this like thing in the distant future. It's not. There's gonna be a baby in my apartment in 3 months. Yeah. I don't know how to. If someone handed me a baby right now, I'd be like, I don't know what you want me to do. I don't know how to hold it.
Well, far less competent people than you have had children.
Now let's ask just
yeah,
before
that's right, exactly. Crackheads. Yeah.
Let's just ask Periel this one question. I'll get right back to that. Does she have a baby in her stomach?
Well, I think that depends on what state you're in.
No, I'm asking
in New
you.
York, it's a baby.
Do you think she has a baby in her stomach?
I think she has a growing baby in her stomach.
Right, but do you think that baby's there is at least a difficult question?
I have said numerous times, both on air and off, that 99-point-something% of women who have late-term abortions only do so because there is something desperately wrong.
Fair enough. That is a very good answer to the question. What have you said 99% of the time about late-term abortions? What I was asking you was, do you think...
I answered you. She has a growing baby in her stomach.
So that's a baby.
It's a
so you're saying it would be a moral wrong? Would it be a moral wrong?
Hold on, Periel. She's gonna give birth to a growing baby.
I mean,
too.
maybe
it's gonna grow for another.
I mean,
18 years.
God willing, I hope so for her.
My answer to that question is yes. There's a growing baby in her stomach. Yes, it's a human being, and yes, she should have the right to terminate it.
Yes, Dan.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's not a living being in there.
It's a fetus right now.
It's your.
Okay, go ahead, Kat. Go ahead. Sorry.
I don't know if anyway.
About.
I don't like it when you try to like trip me up and like do like this like sneaky little like linguistic gymnastics.
Because I'm always astounded. I'm sure you probably feel the same way as at how reluctant people who get angry at people who think that this is actually an issue. How the inability that they generally have to speak frankly and clearly about what they believe about.
Well, let's ask our guest
I'm always astounded at how people who don't get pregnant.
All right.
Yeah, I don't think anybody should be forced to do this that doesn't want to do this. But yeah, no, you're right. It's the people aren't just like waiting because they're not sure what they want to do till now.
Like till 9 months.
I actually have. Funny you say that. Because there's just before we came up here, there's this stat that there's way more abortions this year than last year, and I was thinking, why are abortions up so much? And it occurred to me that maybe because people are worried about the time running out where they're allowed to have it, they're deciding to have it earlier, the abortion earlier, and maybe a certain number of those people, if they waited longer. As happens, they would get cold feet and decide to keep the babies. So maybe by forcing a decision earlier, when it's
they're scared of Trump's not going to let them have abortions.
What's that?
They're scared of Trump. Not gonna lie. Melania in
because
her
some-
book was
some-
like, she was like, I'm pro-choice.
I love abortion.
She didn't say I love abortion, but
It's like I've had many.
she's like, I love abortion. She didn't say I love abortion. But she was, I mean, that Trump is
every year.
He's not like a socially conservative guy.
Yeah.
He's not. He's.
If you were forced to vote for Trump or Kamala,
But I'm not.
yeah, but this is a
forced to.
hypothetical situation.
But I can't. I
But if
wouldn't
it
vote
was-
for either one of them.
So you say, but if you were forced at gunshot, you would take the bullet instead of vote for one of them.
No, I wouldn't die. I would vote for whoever
You'd flip a coin.
rather than be shot.
Okay. But
Yeah,
You're saying you're
There's a lot of
absolute-
things that I wouldn't do, but then if you say, okay, so would you be shot? Then I would do the
So
thing.
you just flip a coin. You're completely indifferent to one or the
You
other.
can't be.
I
Okay,
am,
what are the
actually.
pros and cons?
I mean, so I just think they're both just too big of government for me. They are like a lot of. I don't agree with Republicans on a lot of the social issues. I don't agree with Democrats. I mean, both of them spend just as much money, just on different stuff.
Who's better for Fox News ratings?
That's tough because it really is tough because for me, it's election years are always tough because like when you're like the both sides are bad guy, everybody fucking hates you. Like everybody's like, how could you not? Because democracy, you're hearing it from both sides that I myself am gonna be, ending democracy. And I don't have any allies or team. Now they're going to be a little more chill about me, making jokes about Trump, which I do make jokes about everybody. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
By the way, that's a very big wedding ring you have.
It's real, too.
Yeah, so I guess your husband, I know he's a finance guy, so
He's a
I guess he
finance
does well.
guy, yeah.
Let's get into the meat,
Is that lab grown?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
No.
the meat of the book about binary thinking. How we're all divided into teams, and once you're in a team, I guess this is a thesis of your book, once you pick a team, you're all in.
Yeah.
There's no room for nuance. You either agree with everything Trump says or nothing Trump says.
Yeah. There's a lot there's a lot of that. I mean, and both sides do it. I mean, you see it now where it's like, okay, if you speak out against the team, then you're a traitor. And it's like, you're not allowed to disagree with anything that this person says, whether it's Kamala or whether it's Trump. People, I mean, think about all the people, like evangelicals love Trump. You know what I mean? Like some of the same people who will be emailing me, telling me I'm disgusting because my skirt's too short, are fine with whatever, how many, this man has not lived a life according to evangelical theology, which it doesn't bother me. I don't care. I don't care what any politician does in their personal life, but it's on the other side too. It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
But he's a man.
Of course. Well, that's a key difference, of course, right?
No, I think the evangelicals they know what Trump is.
They do.
But they also know that he was good for furthering their causes.
Yeah.
That's
The evangelicals
politics.
like the Jews too.
No, they actually do love the Jews.
I know.
I'm saying evangelicals, they backed Trump, and Trump promised to give them a conservative Supreme Court that would overrule Roe versus Wade, and he lived up to his promise,
It's terrible.
But then you can't. Okay, so then if you say anything nice about Trump, and on the other side, like, oh, this, or it could be as simple as that thing he said was funny.
Mhm.
Like he's funny.
Oh, he's
like
very
that
funny.
to me, when people say he's not funny, I'm like, you've lost the plot. I
Or
mean,
when they
he's
say that he's like Hitler, I lose a lot
Yeah.
of respect for people because it's like you can say so many things about him that
Yeah.
he's terrible that are true. Once you start doing that, like you just lose so much ground.
The one example I have from my own life, as I literally lost a friend because when Trump was
and not many to spare.
Trump was, well, I do run a lean operation, friend-wise. I keep quality over quantity. But when Trump was hyping hydroxychloroquine,
yeah.
I tweeted that I hope it works, even if it helps him win re-election.
Right.
So in other words, I value ending COVID more than I value him being defeated.
I bet people were really.
And
sick.
I literally
Yeah.
lost a friend.
That's what I'm talking about.
What
right.
kind of friend?
Who?
A longtime friend from college.
I lost a friend too. I lost a friend in 2020 because Joe Jorgensen was the libertarian candidate at the time. I had her on my comedy advice show that I used to have on Fox Nation, and he was like, "Should you really be, propping up other candidates right now?" And he started every time we were out together, he would just like interrogate me about how could I work at Fox and how could I, in front of other people, like we're all like people are drinking, having a good time, just because I'm not mean to people who are. So it's both sides, and I think it's people maybe don't have purpose in their life. People, I mean, I think that's probably
Is
part
there a
of it.
side that's worse? You know, I mean, because Noam thinks that the Democrats are more, the leftists are more intolerant. I think that's what.
Absolutely.
Well, I feel like people who are conservatives will say horrible things about me and to me, but a lot of people on the left won't even like talk to me at all.
So in the last 2 weeks, I don't know if I should actually get into this, but in the last 2 weeks, okay, I was at a restaurant, Il Postino, with some journalists and a prominent figure who was wearing a MAGA hat.
Trump?
No,
It was Trump.
It was, and he was talking to the journalist. And this dude from a table next to us, this Indian dude, walks over and just starts pointing his finger at the guy with the mask. You're disgusting. I don't want to be here in the same restaurant as you. And he demands his check and he leaves. I think, well, that's weird, right? Then, whatever it was, like a week later, in the Olive Tree, where we always play all the major political events, Trump was doing this Madison Square Garden speech, and I had a sense that this was a major event. And sure enough, MSNBC was carrying it, CNN, and all the major networks were carrying it. So I put it on in the Olive Tree, as we always do. Noam, a customer wants to talk to you. You are revolting.
Yeah.
And then 3 different parties, basically all the customers we had in the restaurant, 3 different parties complained, and 3 parties walked out. And they didn't just walk out nicely. They walked out and just dumped on me as like I was the worst person in the world. And then and felt completely open. I said, listen, it's America. There's an election. I would show Kamala Harris. I show all, and even the waitress says, no, it's true. He showed this one. He showed that one. It's like, we're having an election. He's speaking. And then yesterday, Devin Archer, the guy who was Hunter Biden's partner,
Right, of course.
he finds himself in the Olive Tree. I'm like, this is awesome. I can talk to Devin Archer. So I'm speaking to Devin Archer, and he's talking about being Hunter Biden's partner. And somebody at the next table walks over. I guess they overheard who he was, and says to him, "You're disgusting."
Yeah.
And leaves. I'm like, this is too many anecdotal experiences in a short time to just be.
But if you were in Texas,
No. This has been going on since people were accosting Sarah Huckabee Sanders in restaurants, and this became a thing. It's part of the resistance. I'm sure conservatives are not happy about liberal people, but we have not seen this rampant around the country, and they don't like high five each other. That you go harass somebody minding their own business in a restaurant and just start calling them names. That seems to me a very much, 2020s cancel culture sanctimony.
It is, but it's also like New York and LA are, and I was not surprised that Trump won because I'm touring. You know what I mean? I'm going other places, and there's roadside Trump stores.
Yep.
There's people where they're like, they love this guy. And in New York, it's like if you even bring up his name, there's no Republicans in New York. There's people who are like,
but not outside the city.
Right,
In
of course.
Westchester,
Right.
it is like.
But would you think
Okay,
you?
But as I say, but just so like we had that I forget her name. You know her. There's this I don't know if she's Palestinian or just Muslim comic. She doesn't work here, but I see her from time to time. And she was on.
Iman Al Husseini?
No, a different one.
Nora?
A pretty girl. I don't know. I saw her on Instagram saying "fuck Israel." Fuck. Remember that? Fuck.
Yeah,
Israel.
yeah.
And she comes into the Olive Tree. I'm like, hi, you want something to drink? Like, I'm not going to get into that with, like,
Right.
To me, it's very important in America that you don't do that because then otherwise the whole premise of the country falls apart.
Totally. No, and most of us want the same stuff out of life. We have different ideas of how to get there. But most of us want the same stuff out of life. And, we need to remember that.
Well, your book, you made the point that we got to stop considering people that we disagree with as evil.
Right.
So that I think you use gun control as an example. Maybe.
Yeah.
The people that are, well, you can kind of.
Yeah, I did because I was sitting in the green room at Fox, and there was 2 women who were talking. One of them's really famous conservative, one of them's a really famous liberal, and they were talking about gun violence in schools and how scary it was having kids in school. And the liberal was like, yes, I'm really happy I live in this liberal neighborhood. There's really not guns. People don't have guns there. And the conservative, who actually, lives elsewhere, was kind of like, well, yes, that's why I put my daughter in a school where there's armed guards. And neither of them told the other one, like, well, that's not the right way to do it. They bonded over their shared fear. They bonded over the thing that they agree is a problem. problem, but they have different solutions for that idea. And it's crazy because both of these are people who are no doubt getting screamed at online by the opposite sides of like, you think this, and people will say something like, you don't care if kids die, which, dude, like, no, yes, people do. Everybody cares when nobody wants kids to die, but we argue and you say that all the time as if it's real, and it's not real. We know that's not real, because if we really thought there was people out there that really didn't give a shit if kids would die, we would act differently. Just like we would act differently, people would be acting differently on a lot of these cable news channels if they really thought Trump was Hitler. Like they'd be making preparations for Hitler to come to power. That would not involve, going on TV.
I agree. Isn't it like, I want to show the clips. Dan, you have more questions about the book, but I want to show the clips from Morning Joe, the morning after he was.
Well, the book is also about Kat's bisexuality.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we can talk about it.
Oh wait, take that off, Max. Kat's, you're bisexual?
Yeah, I talked about it in my book. So
so it is the book, but
it's in the book. But the reason I talked about it in the book is because I had a great story about it, where I was seeing this girl, and she was over my apartment, and it was her first time coming over my apartment, like staying over, and she was still there the next night because that's like how women are, right? Her parents, her mom found out that I worked at Fox. Her mom was a very left-wing gender studies professor, and she was horrified. And her family came to collect her from my home, and because but that's the knee-jerk response of like the team, like Fox News bad. Like I wasn't being sexist. I certainly wasn't being homophobic with your daughter. You know what I mean?
Far from it.
Right. And they physically, she came to, they were, and I met with their mutual friend, and I talked to my friend. She was like, oh, her mom was freaking out that you worked at Fox. And I still kept seeing her for like years on and off after that. It was made it more
exciting.
Yeah, no, right. It did actually. I was like, I'm such a fucking bad boy, actually. Because I work on this cable news channel. But so I had to tell that. I never talked about it before, and I was nervous about talking about it, that people make a big deal about it. No one did. The first time I talked about it was I had a Variety did a piece on me in my book, and I was like so nervous about it. And the only thing people gave a shit about was Variety. Oh, people that readers of Variety were horrified that they interviewed a Fox News girl. Like nobody even fucking cared.
Oh, this is a good way to compare the right and left. So I've known people over the years that worked at Fox. Now maybe it's changed since I've kind of disengaged with Fox. Most of them were liberals. Like I used to be friends. I'm still friends with them. I haven't spoken to her much lately. Like Julie Banderas.
I love Julie.
Yeah,
I love Julie.
She was tweeting against Trump while she was working at Fox. And everything I've ever heard from people at Fox, at least years ago when I speak to them, was like they never tell us what to say. Nobody really cares. Like
no.
But I do not believe it's the same way in MSNBC. I don't think it's like that. I don't think it's like, yeah, you're chill. You can be for Trump or you can be for Harris. We don't really care. I don't think it's the same attitude.
I've never been told what to say. I mean, also my show that I'm on is a little more leeway. Like we can talk about.
But you know people who work there who are voting for Harris?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
You think there's anybody in MSNBC voting for Trump that anybody would know?
It is funny because the Republicans they bring on are like Liz Cheney, who's like, it's like, okay.
So, if this whole Trump is Hitler thing.
Yeah.
I know you feel this way, and I'm sure you guys must talk about it. You would think that the morning after the guy that everybody was so scared of, the last election, he's like Hitler, all this stuff, you'd think the first thing they would do in the first TV show after he won would be to discuss what's our plan.
Yeah,
we're in big trouble.
Yeah.
Hitler just won. This is our last election.
Mm-hmm.
We need a game plan to protect ourselves from what we've been telling America for a year is the end of our democracy. None of that whatsoever. Can we play it? So I was like, I couldn't believe Morning Joe, and I was going to go today and make like a compilation of it. But then Megyn Kelly had a thing on her show, so I just basically stole hers. I added one thing, but
wait,
make sure the sound is working.
Wait, Kat has to put her headphones
Yeah, I'll put my headphones on.
Oh, you put your headphones on, yeah. So go ahead, Max. So this
Every
is
Democrat.
Wait, so just stop for 1
sat
second,
down with
Max.
dinner-
1 second. So just to say, this is the first thing they say. They say, how are they going to react? Are they going to be scared? Are they going to be crying? Are they like what's like evacuation plans? Okay, good. Make sure you rewind it all the way to the beginning, please.
With every Democrat that we have ever sat down with dinner with over the past 5 years who have kids that go to colleges say their kids are afraid to speak in class because they'll be canceled. She'll be destroyed in social media by noon. So they just sit in class quiet.
So stop there,
Now,
stop there.
If any of you
So that's the first thing he says. Oh, actually, all my friends have been telling me their parents are they're my friends' kids are afraid to speak out in class. They're the free speech of that the left is taking away from them. This must have something to do with the reason people are voting for Trump. Not because he's Hitler. Go ahead, continue.
Which camera? Give me a camera to look at. Boom! Oh, look at that one. If any of you out there say, oh, that's just like a conservative, white, Southern guy, da-da-da, that's where you're losing.
No, they have a
That's where
point.
you're losing.
Turns out the Trump voters have a point.
That's what I heard. And I didn't hear it from Republicans. I didn't hear it from Trumpers. I heard it from Democrats over the past 3 or 4 years. Their kids were afraid to talk in class.
Go on, Joe Moore.
We've got to stop all this spending.
As we've said on the show 1,000 times, Democrats should be smarter on the women's athletics thing. 85% of Americans oppose men transitioning after puberty and competing against
Welcome to
women.
the team, Joe.
Oh, wait, stop right there. So, and then you got, bring up the clip where Joe Scarborough was warning the Democrats before the election. They ought to be more concerned about cancel culture, and they ought to be more concerned about the extreme positions on trans rights. He never mentioned it. They were just a bunch of bigots. So go ahead. You might have to go back like 5 seconds here because
after puberty and competing against
Welcome to
women.
the team, Joe.
Immigration has been a terrible decision for Democrats.
Immigration is a terrible decision.
They were playing to
Fox News.
when they let millions of people come cruising through the border.
Listen, we spent a lot of time talking about abortion rights. America decided not to blame Donald Trump. Right. America decided, okay, I can vote to protect abortion rights and also vote for him, and we're not going to have these immigrants marauding us, and we're not going to have our kids turning trans when they go to school.
So I'm not sure they were playing to anything that was smart here in terms of an open border, and that's what it is, an open border. And I think it's a bad decision. I hope they learn from it.
A lot of Hispanic voters have problems with black candidates.
Right.
A lot
and
of
with other Hispanics. You got some that don't like each other. And some of the most misogynist things I've heard going on this Get Out the Vote tour came from black men. I mean, misogynist things. So you're
that's
absolutely right.
So
It's
the
not
final point is, and the racism, that's the traditional Democrats, the blacks and Hispanics. They're the racists here. It's not even this is such a capitulation in a way, right, to everything that the Republicans have been saying all along, but they wouldn't admit it until after they lost the election. And I just find it stunning. I don't know how you...
I know a lot of people who voted for Trump secretly, like men specifically, that were like, they're sick of being told this, we're bad, blah, blah. I think a lot of people believe Joe Biden was a moderate because I don't believe if you were asked Joe Biden, like, what's the non-binary, and asked him to explain that, I don't think he'd have any fucking idea what that is.
No.
I think he has his note. He has maybe able to pull out a note card where he'd have the answer on it somewhere, but he doesn't know. He's old as shit, whatever. But Kamala, she ran in 2020 as a super progressive. So that's why when Trump came, and everybody thought it was so ridiculous in the debate, and when he was talking about the way he put it was absurd. What did he say? Transgender operations on illegal aliens in prison. The way he put it, but people were like, "That's ridiculous." And I think it was like a TikTok sound. But then people, it's true.
It's true.
She's on record saying it's true. So I think that there's a huge difference for some people between voting for yeah, I know they have him say this stuff, but this is an old guy who's kind of been around or whatever. He was the crime bill guy, right? And then Kamala, she's on the record, saying a lot of very, very uber progressive things. And I think that people just get in these bubbles, man, where they're like, well, I certainly can't say this. And there's huge gaps in what a lot of people, and this is across all demographics, I write about this in my book too, between what people actually believe and what people are willing to say they believe, because they don't want to, they're worried about offending someone. So they might be like, oh, well, yes, of course, I also would want to pay for the transgender operation, because you're like, is somebody her transgender? Somebody's niece transgender? I want to get outside. But nobody wants to.
Somebody's niece, transgender criminal.
Right, exactly. Nobody wants to pay for a criminal's anything, when you become too afraid to say that in the voting booth, that's private.
Well, I have to say, this is going to sound crazy for me, and then I want to say something else, that if we accept that this is a condition, whatever kind of condition it is, mental, I guess, could be physical, I don't know, that needs to be treated, and we do treat prisoners for their health issues.
But kinda. Like I don't think the healthcare is great in prison. I haven't heard that.
No, I guess what I'm saying is that
It's good on death row. I've
yeah,
heard.
exactly. Like,
the point is it's hard to make the argument not to pay for the prisoner's transgender surgery if you want to make, if everything else you've ever said is that this is a condition and it has to be treated and it's essentially inhumane not to relieve somebody of this pain if you can relieve them of the pain. Like, do we treat prisoners for depression? I bet you we do, right?
No, we make them depressed by locking them up into
They do have
solitary
psychological
confinement.
care. in
Yeah,
prison, of
like
course.
you know, so if this is the psychological, like, what are we worried about? The money? I think, like, in the grand scheme of things, this doesn't add up to a lot of money.
Well, I mean, that's the same argument, I think, for treating prepubescent kids with puberty blockers is that if it's going to cause such psychological... We treat kids for depression and for schizophrenia if they have it. And if the psychological distress is so great, I think a case could be made for it. I'm not informed enough about the science, but I wouldn't dismiss it out of hand.
The science is taking
well,
a beating.
not yet.
Yeah.
None of this should have ever been politicized, and it was just so politicized.
Yeah. But of all the transgender things that I might feel, I've reached my limit on, the prison thing, I was actually,
But that was a major. I mean, you know how many ads I saw about that every single day?
Which is insane, right? 'Cause how many prisoners are really trying to have surgery because they're trans? I mean, like, it must be the most infinitesimal number, like less people even than late-term abortions.
Well, that's what's interesting. So there was, as we all have learned.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's a widespread issue.
Like, this is not a problem.
Well, as we've learned, not everybody who's trans wants to go through the surgery.
That's certainly true as well.
So when a male prisoner says, I'm a woman, put me in the female prison, we have a right to be skeptical. What's going on here? Is he just faking it? Does he want to go get laid? You could just imagine going there and having find a girlfriend and just settle down.
Settle down.
But I'm saying, like, that would be totally
happily
something,
ever after.
Some already dishonest person trying to provide a better life for themselves while they have to do time in prison and say, listen, if I say I'm a woman, I can go into the women's prison. I'll meet a girl there. We'll keep it a secret. We'll have a relationship, whatever. I could totally see that. But I don't see too many people faking it and getting surgery. So it's like you're really weeding out the people who are really suffering. Like, cut my dick off. I need, so I'm.
I think for a lot of people, it was just more like, okay. I mean, we all live in New York, so we probably all like know trans people in real life, right?
Well, several work here at the comedy.
There's people, right? There's people in other places in the country that like probably don't actually have a trans friend or know a trans person IRL. Yeah. They don't, and it reached a point, I think, where
like that means in real life.
Yes, it is a very small percentage of the population. So for some people, they're really confused by it, and if you asked a question the wrong way, then it's like you're an asshole and a piece of shit.
Now, when you were bisexual, were you ever trans curious?
Well, she's still.
I married a man, but I'm still like I'm attracted to women. I dated girls.
Man, you mean XY?
Yeah, I dated girls. I never dated a trans person.
Would you have?
I mean, I'm married, so no. I mean, I don't know if I was into them.
Would you have married a woman, or you wanted a kid? You wanted a kid with your spouse, therefore you had no choice but to marry a man.
So I only ever wanted kids with my husband. I never wanted kids with any other people I dated, whether they were men or women. Like, I never wanted kids.
You don't really need to have a husband to have kids.
No, but you need to have a husband to have a kid wherein your spouse is
a free one.
Like with the father.
Getting pregnant was free for me. Yeah, but like it was free.
But also, your husband and you share biologically a baby, which you couldn't happen with a wife. You'd have to have a sperm donor.
You'd have to have a sperm donor, yeah.
And so it's not the same thing.
Or a threesome. You could do it for free.
Well, a throuple, but then, all right, I guess that. But anyway, would
New York, you could have a sign in the street like "Get me pregnant." Like it'd be people would do that. It'd be fine.
Well, I'm happy to give my sperm away to anybody who's interested, because I wouldn't mind having a kid, but I don't want to deal with the responsibility. So it could be interesting.
But my husband is. I never really wanted to get married. I was kind of fine without that. I met him, and he's just. he's just so patient and accepting and cool and just nice, and it's easy. It's not difficult and it's not drama. Like, I couldn't imagine having a kid with anyone else.
Could you imagine meeting a woman that would have triggered the same desire to get married?
Sure, yeah.
But then you wouldn't have been able to have a kid with the woman.
I would have found a way if I want. But I don't know. There's never been another man either that's made me want to have kids. So it's... I don't have any
It seems to be like a him thing, not like a gender thing.
Well, that's what I'm getting
It's
at.
not
That's
like
why
I had like an
inspiring
ex-boyfriend that I wanted to have kids with either. Like whenever I dated other people, I was like, sorry, I don't want kids. That was my non-negotiable. So I didn't want kids. And then I met him and I was like, oh, I want to have your kids.
Well, but you know, we hear a lot of women saying they don't want kids, and how many of them could be persuaded otherwise?
Most of them. Most of the people I've known, women who said they didn't want kids, eventually had kids.
I didn't want kids.
It's just, you know, something when you're.
When you're
younger.
I know a lot of women who haven't had kids and who have always said that they didn't want kids.
Well,
our Ann Coulter doesn't have any kids. I bring her up because she's also blonde, and
I was like, that is true.
and also bisexual.
Let's start listing off people.
Is she bisexual?
I don't think
I don't. think so.
Neither does my friend Camille. She also doesn't have kids.
I have this friend Katie back home and doesn't have kids.
I have a J.D. Vance quality to me. I think it's sad if a woman doesn't have children.
Oh my God!
I really do.
Please stop.
I don't mean it as in a judgmental way. I'm saying it's such a joy. I can't believe you don't say. Listen, you have children.
But it's a joy for you. It's not a joy for. It's a joy for me too.
Are you sure?
Of course, I'm sure.
Okay.
But I mean, you know that I'm sure.
We all know somebody.
But wait a second. That doesn't mean that it would be a joy for somebody who actually really didn't want to have children.
There's some people who shouldn't.
Well, that's true.
No.
I have two things to say. I've said this before, but I think this is very important. I've compared it to throwing a dog into a swimming pool. Now, you know,
I hate this.
But it's really true. When you throw a dog into a swimming pool, have you ever done that?
No.
Because she's not a sociopath.
I've not thrown a dog into a swimming pool.
Well, this is the only way you can get a dog in a swimming pool. And the way you throw a dog in a swimming pool is
the only way you can get a woman pregnant, by the way.
When you throw a dog into a swimming pool, the dog immediately starts to doggy paddle, immediately starts to swim. The dog has no idea it knows how to swim. There's a part of its brain which carries that information, and it's activated with water. That's the way it is, right?
It's like your seat, the life vest in an airplane.
Some dogs can't swim.
No, they can all swim. And
English bulldog.
They can all swim, and it's all activated. So this is the thing about childbirth is you will find that you have a tremendous part of your brain, and men too, that is there and ready to be activated when the baby is born. It's already being activated in certain ways. And because you don't have access to that until you have the child, people who think they don't want to have kids very often have no idea because they haven't had that brain awaken. I can tell you, I always thought I wanted to have kids. But as soon as I did have a baby, like, oh my God, this was the best thing. I had no idea what it would bring out of me. And so the reason I think it's sad, of course there's exceptions. Everything is on a curve and there's always exceptions to everything. But I'm saying that often I believe that women, when they say, I don't want to have kids, what I find melancholy about it is because most of them, if they ever did have a kid, would be like, oh my God, this is the joy of my life. I can't believe I thought I didn't want to have kids. I don't
know if there's any science, by the way, to back
it. Yeah, but also, you know, there are maybe women who do want to have dating. Right, is a disaster because of men in a lot of ways. Men don't want to commit to women a lot either. So
I don't know. This whole line of logic I find extremely problematic. It's like if you would just let me
Trump won. We don't say
try.
problematic anymore. Okay, just fucking retire. That's one of the words. Just cross out problematic.
No, but this
Nobody
is
gives a
like
shit
if
about
you
your
would just
problematic anymore.
try anal sex, you would really like it.
Oh,
Like,
really? Is that what
there's
it is?
something that unlocks in your brain, and if you haven't tried anal sex, you have no way of knowing. Something just opens up. You're like,
Well,
wow.
that may well be. I'm not going to rule that out. Although I have limited experience with doctors. And
I've been doing this show with you for like 4 or 5 years now. That is the dumbest thing you've ever said.
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so. I think you're really like superimposing this really romantic notion of having children.
Okay, but obviously, the entire human psychology is built around reproduction. Everything you think you like to have sex. Why do you think you like to have sex? Because that's the way they get you to have kids. It's their entire neurological structure is probably 50-60% devoted in one way or another to making sure that we have children. Not anal sex, by the way, children. And
tell that to the gay guys.
For me to say that it's probably inherently fulfilling to have a child. Now, of course, if you're struggling and you're poor and you're stressful, there may be
right. That's what I'm saying.
But many of the people that you know who say they never want to have kids, it's not because they say, I can't afford to have kids. That's really saying, I do want to have kids. I just don't think I can take care of it properly. That's a different matter. I'm saying they say, no, I don't want to have kids. I prefer my job at the office, whatever. And I think many of them are mistaken about what would actually fulfill them.
Sounds logical. I don't know that the research backs up that people with kids are happier.
Well, when Kat has her baby,
it could go either way. I could just be like, I've ruined my life.
After the gender reveal, I'd like you to come here, and tell us if you just to tell us if you agree that
the Kat's got a busy schedule, but
that a certain part of your psychology was actually activated, and you started to have feelings that you didn't realize.
I got no frame of reference. I haven't had a kid yet.
I don't think that that it's untrue necessarily that a lot of people who maybe thought they wanted to have kids, once they do, they are maternal and they love their children. I'm not saying that. I just think that it's really, and especially, you're not going to like this, but it's true, especially for mothers, and especially for working mothers, it is more complicated.
Birthing people. Go ahead.
Birthing people. Fine. Thank you. It's more complicated than this like glorious notion of just like having kids that you love.
Dude, it's not easy to have a job either. Of course there's downsides to it.
Yeah, tell me about it.
I'm pregnant and I have a job.
It's like,
and I'm on crutches, for my broken hip. And it's
that you got from being pregnant.
Now, one more gossipy question before we get
yes.
back
I have
to the
some
book.
Political questions.
So how did you meet this Prince Charming?
My husband?
Because they said nobody could win Kat's heart.
I met him on a dating app, and then I didn't like him at first.
Well, which one? Bumble?
Raya.
Oh, Raya. That's the fancy one that rejected me. And rightly so.
I didn't like him at first because I thought he was like too clean cut. I always dated like artsy type guys. But and then I canceled 2 other dates on him. And then my sister was like, just go with him one more time. Just do it one more time. And then he showed up late and he was wearing a hoodie. He wasn't dressed like a finance douche. He was wearing like a hoodie and he was unshaven and a hat on. I was like, oh, he's hot. And we never spent a night apart after that. So, I mean, I changed my mind.
Now, why did you get rejected? What is this Raya?
Well, Raya's like this dating app, but it's invitation only. So I think it's based largely on how many followers you have, like on Instagram. I don't know how they make the decision.
I don't either.
I mean, Kat's a well-known personality, so
it's
of course,
for well-known
how the hell did your husband
personality.
get on this?
He has friends, I guess, who are well-known people.
And I guess if you have enough money, I don't know, but it's they don't accept everybody. So
I met a lot of people on there that were not my husband too. So it's not like, I actually don't know anyone else who met off Raya.
Sounds like
a lot of douchebags on Raya.
I'm sure,
like a lot,
like a bottle service nightclub where you have to go in.
I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot of DJs and
there
models.
are a lot of DJs. There's a lot of DJs, which I never went out with a DJ.
Why are there a lot of DJs?
I went out with many unemployed men, never a DJ.
Hey, you went out, I think, with a comic too.
Yeah, few comics.
Few comics.
Yeah,
that'll go nameless.
Name names.
Yeah.
Name
Well,
not naming names.
He's not going to name names, but how'd you find dating comics?
Does it rhyme with Bo Sogan?
No, I dated comics who were like they weren't good. You know what I mean?
They weren't good comics.
They weren't good. They weren't like
boyfriends?
they weren't success either.
Oh.
They weren't successful. And I dated this guy who was, I mean, he was abusive towards me. And I wrote about that in the book for the first time. He would get like mad at me about being successful. And he
Physically
was
abusive?
at times. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But my brain was all fucked from it. I was like, this is for example,
I don't get how some loser comic that abuses you.
because he was my friend first. And it's, it's like a bad thing that happens to your brain where I had to have a ton of therapy to undo it. Basically,
You look at Kat, you say, well, this girl's put together. She has glasses.
yeah,
And,
throws a lot of people off.
and yet she falls prey to.
I did. This was 2015, I want to say. So it was a while ago. And I was single for a while after that and in therapy. And
Awful.
I wouldn't have accepted love like I had from my husband if I wouldn't have done that.
Is that how you became bisexual?
No, I was bisexual before that.
Fair question.
And after that. I dated women before that and also after
Was
that.
there an itch that you, because if you're completely heterosexual, all your sexual itches can be scratched in the context of a relationship, but
Yeah.
you have a sexual.
Not necessarily.
Well, maybe not. But is that an itch that now can't be scratched because you're with a man, and so you have to then have threesomes, and then we'll get to the real.
You don't want to offend him by bringing another woman into the relationship.
I love that. That's just like not what I'm thinking about right now in my life. Like
She's like 6 months pregnant.
I'm very pregnant. I'm on crutches. I'm working. I'm also touring. No, I'm not thinking about bringing a woman into the bedroom right now.
Okay. Well, when you come back after you give birth, then we'll get more into that.
You know if it's a boy or girl?
I don't. I want to be surprised. I think it's a boy, but I don't. There's no reason why. I just do.
So you haven't had like one of the 3D ultrasounds?
Oh, we have. I walk in. I say, "Don't tell me," and when they go between the legs, I don't look. They tell me not to look.
Well, you should definitely do the 3D color ultrasound and don't look. So you just have it for posterity because they videotape it. It's really like high res. It's really cool. And then, all right. So, I don't know. How do we get back into politics?
Well,
We just say we get back into politics.
Go get back into
That
politics.
works as a transition.
The same way I transition from my joke about my cousin Sheila to my airline bit. Just do it abruptly and quickly.
So,
Well, you really.
I was having this thought. There's a lot I want to talk about the election and everything, but I was having this thought a couple months ago. I went to Washington Square Park. I told it on the podcast, and I was just shocked at what I saw. Like bums with feces in their pants,
Yeah.
sleeping in the grass while kids were having to negotiate around them to play, and middle-class people walking around with that. And I was like, who would want to live this way? Like what? And it occurred to me that I didn't really know how to.
Who would want to live with feces in their pants?
I don't know how to put it properly, but there's a liberal idea that I think there's an overwhelming. Sorry, I'm sunning my eye. There's an overwhelming majority in the country for, which is live and let live, and I think basically 75% of everybody in the country feels like live and let live is a good way to live your life. And what's happened now with progressives is that they're all about the let live, but in some way they forgot about the live. Like, yeah, I want to be able to bring my kids to the park in a safe environment, right? I want trans people to get full fulfillment and satisfaction out of life, but I want my sports for my child to be fair. And you can go through any number of issues this way, and they just lost sight of the fact that as much as we want to accommodate people, the let live part, like, yeah, gay marriage, that doesn't affect me, right? There's some people who really have a problem with that, but most people are like, yeah, that's live and let live. But there's so many things now that they want to impose on us. They don't want to let live about my views on things, my the words I use, my political activities, who I have at my club that they might not approve of. Like, there's no live and let live. And say, listen, if you want to have Louis C.K. perform at the club, I don't like him, but that's your business, right? No, that it's the live part of the live and let live, which I think that is where they've made that mistake. If they could just get back to that and understand that good, decent people want to let live, but they also want to be left alone to live their own lives the way they want to, I think that's the recalibration that the Democrats need to make. Am I onto anything there?
I mean, I'm extremely live and let live, but it's obvious that, you know, if you're not safe walking around, then you're not living anymore.
Right, but they're all concerned about the criminals, and we should be concerned about the criminals, right? But not at the expense of my right to have a wholesome park.
Not have feces everywhere.
Or homeless people. It's like, you know,
there is feces like I see a lot more shit than you'd think.
Oh, wait till you have a kid.
Oh, I mean that's
I saw somebody shooting up yesterday on Hester Street.
Yeah,
we care about drug addicts.
Yeah, of course.
We want to help them. We may even want to let them get drugs, right? And we want it to be legal. We don't want to see them in jail anymore.
100%.
But we don't want the fucking needles next to our kids. And this is another thing. So like, and we want trans people to have rights. But you know what? My daughter's 11. We've had trans guests to our home. I couldn't care less who she sees as trans. But do I want?
Well, we don't need to bring
changing in front of my daughter.
Yeah, I don't know why would do that.
But just for I only brought it up because she's been a guest of the house. I was saying, would I?
Well, you don't want any grown-ups changing in front of your daughter.
No, I have no problem with this actually happened. If my daughter goes to a gym, I don't mind if she changes in the girls' locker room with the women. But do I want her to see a dick in the female locker room? I don't even let my daughter see my dick, and there's no sexual.
That's very.
It's probably a good idea,
right? But I'm saying like
very good news.
But I'll get called a bigot if I say, listen, I don't want my daughter to see a naked trans woman's penis. I'm saying that's the live and let live. Like you can do what you want.
But what are the like?
There are
have to impose it on me.
But there are people. That's a sensible view. But there are people that are hateful about it. You know,
there are,
but this actually happened in the news, remember? And Periel took the side of the gym, but actually in that story, it was the girl who was asked to leave the gym because the trans woman was given the right to change. And by the way, 99 out of 100 trans people I know be like, no, I wouldn't want to do that in front of a little girl. They get it, right? But it's just
But I think Dan's right. I think that people are hateful about it, and so
there are some. And I don't think small group of people that are hateful about expressing the view that you just expressed.
Well, yes, there are, but you can really become filled with resentment very quickly when you have your whole life been an advocate for, let's say, trans people to be able to live fulfilling lives, and then all of a sudden, as soon as if you want to live fulfilling lives, that means you have to let your 11-year-old daughter be exposed to penises and. You know, they should be able to set records in sports events. I say, no, I think I'm not down with that. Oh, you're a bigot. And then they'll tweet about you. And this is, you know, what people went through. And then you're like, fuck that. And you get angry. It's not hateful, but it's deep resentment. And then they go and vote for Trump.
Right, but some people, I think you're saying some people are hateful, which they are. And I think that's a very reasonable view. Most people agree that, you know, there's differences in terms of biology that make the sports thing unfair.
But you couldn't say that so easily a few years ago. I was worried about that view on this podcast. I was like, what's going to happen?
Yeah, no, but I think that being afraid to say that, I think has made people resentful. But there's people who will straight up then just talk shit about the trans kid on the team.
Yeah.
Like being ugly or this, you know what I mean? And it's like, ew, it's like, okay, you know, now you're just bullying a kid.
Right. That's why I said 70% of America, or maybe I said 75%, most people are not like that. There are some irredeemable people who are just ugly haters on both sides, you know, hateful.
But getting back to my question about which side is more intolerant, who's most likely to drop you as a friend? The conservative guy, and you say, I want the trans kid on the team, or the liberal guy, and you say, I don't want the trans people.
There's data on this. The liberals are more likely to drop you as a friend. There's all data about, like, what if your daughter or your child married someone who believes in the opposite party, and the liberals are much less tolerant than that.
Listen, I know somebody who I'm very, very close to whose brother stopped talking to him and called him like a Nazi because he voted for Trump. Meanwhile, this guy is not like walking around in like a MAGA hat. He's like the nicest guy. He's a corporate lawyer. He's like pretty conservative, socially liberal, and just like completely just like the most vicious comments to him.
I mean,
so
to be fair, Trump is a more provoking figure.
well, for sure.
But this exists even without regard to Trump.
But it's gotten so where people will say, I keep seeing this. I'm sure we've all seen this. We all have the internet. Ever since Trump won the election, people
Yes,
are
but
like, it's not about politics. It's about you voted against my right. You voted against my rights. You voted against my safety, my willingness to exist. And where did that start? That Trump was gonna like genocide gay people, you know? Because that's a thing. That's an argument that people make, and I don't know where that comes from.
They make all kinds of outlandish arguments.
What about the Jews?
He never said he was going to be a dictator on day one. He never said he was going to execute Liz Cheney with a firing squad.
Lon Chaney.
Liz Cheney.
I mean, they make stuff up about him, and his filters down.
Which helps him so much.
Right, and he doesn't care. There's like I keep saying, there's enough stuff that's true, right? You don't need to like make shit up.
Now is all this that all the stuff you talked about in the book about the teams and the intolerance toward anybody with an opposing view, is this new or worse than it's been historically?
I think it's definitely worse. It's absolutely worse. It's absolutely worse, and the studies show that too. That it's been getting worse.
I mean, I can imagine back in the Vietnam War era, if you said you were against the war and you said you were for the war, I could imagine similar sorts of rifts. I mean, Ben Franklin didn't speak to his son because he was a loyalist. You know, there's always been issues.
Just look at what happened with celebrities that didn't endorse Kamala, like for example.
What happened?
Like it was like McCarthyism-ish. Like, you so-and-so hasn't endorsed Kamala yet. And then it's like...
Not that they endorsed Trump, but they just didn't say anything.
They didn't say anything at all. And it's like, it has to touch every area of your life or this person. And then because this person, they're irredeemable.
The personal is political.
Yeah, and it's like one difference in viewpoint tells you everything you need to know about a person. Like, say somebody voted for Trump because they, you know, are conservative, they're whatever, socially conservative, or because of Israel, or because of some issue that's got nothing to do with this person's homophobic. Like, no, that person could be the most MAGA-ist person I know is actually like a gay guy, you know, and he's a first generation immigrant. He's Iranian and Mexican. He's got like a neck tattoo and he loves Trump. You know, it's like you can't, everyone's in it.
WrestleMania.
People are individuals. People are individuals, and we don't treat people like individuals anymore. I think that's where the problem comes from.
How do you react to this notion, because it drives me crazy, that the reason Kamala must have lost is because America is racist and misogynist?
So America's definitely we're sexist. I mean, there's stuff that's out there, right? I mean, I said that on the show that like the one thing men and women have in common is that they hate women, like, or they don't like women. But you can't chalk up all of it to that. Absolutely
on this show too.
Like, sexism is a real thing, but that doesn't mean that everything is sexism. And when you make everything sexism, I think that like if there was this overarching view, now if you're a man, you're automatically bad because you're a man. And if you can't do anything, I feel like a lot of men felt like, okay, should I just kill myself? What do I do? And then a lot of them voted for Trump.
Look, I go much further than you, because it has to be rejected on its face because it's an unfalsifiable claim. What they're saying essentially is, if we nominate a woman of color and she loses, therefore it was racism and misogyny.
Totally. I agree with that.
It doesn't matter that she ran for office in the Democratic Party and didn't get a single delegate. It doesn't matter that she's the most mediocre candidate that we've ever run. It doesn't matter that Barack Obama won landslides. It doesn't matter that Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by millions of votes. It is definitionally true that if this person that we've nominated loses, it had to be
right. But then that also keeps them from examining themselves too and realizing the whole list of things that I think the Democrats did wrong.
Well,
and this woman was so bad that they were talking about dropping her from the ticket. This is how bad Kamala Harris was. Now, yet they want to tell us that the reason that she must have lost, never mind that the reason she won is because black people moved to the right and Hispanic people moved to the right. And I think women of most cohorts moved to the right. They want to tell us that the only reason she must have lost is because she's a woman and a person of color. And I find it enraging. It's so dishonest, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I do not think that's why she lost. No, I don't. I think there's a whole list of reasons why she lost.
And it bothers me as an American because I love this country very, very much. And I respect anybody who wants to fairly criticize the country. I grew up in the 60s. My father spent a lot of time talking to his little boy about the plight of black Americans who were fighting for civil rights. And it didn't make him any less patriotic or raise me to be any less patriotic. But this lie, after all we've seen, after we've seen Hillary and after we've seen Barack Obama, this lie that now is filtering down to my children, that they're growing up in this racist country, despite the fact, for all the reasons that I've laid out, that it's empirically and logically false. This makes me hate them. This makes me fucking hate the left, that I have to like try to get around carefully in case my kids pick up something that I didn't say carefully and say it in the classroom, and then I get a call from the teacher. Do you know what your son said about Columbus Day or something like that? You know, and I think that's where a lot of Americans are at. Like, we are fine with legitimate criticisms of our country, but don't lie like that and feed this stuff to my kids. And just because your candidate who was lousy, and we know she was lousy because your own people
didn't vote for her.
Your own people didn't vote for her.
Right. I agree.
They
I agree
a
with
little bit
that.
for her when they had the chance. I think these types of issues, plus inflation, I guess, are the main reason that she lost. I mean, we voted for Donald Trump after January 6th.
Yeah.
After all the convictions and everything. This guy is a disaster.
It's insane. But it is insane.
But
Like
Kat-
that those are our two choices is insane.
Kat, do you find yourself getting more hatred? But you said you get it from both sides.
I really do.
But who is nastier? It just is the same.
It's pretty much the same. It's just over different stuff. I mean, but I will say the good thing about the conservatives is that at least they will say shit to me that's mean, where people on the left a lot of times they'll be like, well, I can't associate with you, won't talk to you at all.
First of all, there's a sampling error because she works on Fox News. Mm-hmm. She's seen probably 300 to 1 by conservatives, very few liberals. So even to have an equal number of people criticizing you, it means that the liberals are much more sensitive.
I'm saying a lot of liberals, they'll be like, oh, she works at Fox, I'm not going to sit down with her.
I see.
Which is, it's like, dude, like, you know that there's Democrats that work there too. Like, there's people who are, not everyone who works there is a MAGA Republican. People don't understand that.
But this is what you're saying, like, about like this dishonesty, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just like people don't want to look at the truth because it's easier to just spew something at like the third party than actually be like, well, the Democrats did all of these things that are fucked up.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's the same thing. It's like, you work at Fox News, like you're a MAGA lunatic.
You're ruining the country.
Yeah.
You're ruining democracy. And it's
you by yourself,
single-handedly.
Yeah.
Did you see your competitors crying?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, of course. I mean, I do you buy it? I mean, are they?
Did that override?
I think that I don't really. But I mean, I think that it's. Do you buy? I don't. You can't be that.
Jimmy Kimmel getting choked up with tears, and although he's friends with Adam Carolla, which is a weird thing. But then I saw some other people on.
Yeah, are they still friends?
Yeah, I think they're still.
They started
friends
together, but
I mean, and I'm a guy who cries. But I only cry at something very, very sentimental.
I cried during the Meatloaf biopic when Bad Out of Hell 2 went to number 1. You know,
that's the greatest comeback before Trump's.
Yes, well,
it
was a big comeback.
That was a big comeback until Trump's. It is an amazing. This guy, leaving aside.
Talk about Meatloaf or
Trump? Leaving aside everything about his politics, like totally on a valueless way. The biography, the life that this guy has put together.
Of course.
Fucking remarkable.
Unbelievable. From like The Apprentice to now.
Oh, prior to that. I mean,
and even right before that. But even just if you would have said to me or anyone on January 6th, 2021, like, no, he's coming back, and he's going to win, and he's going to win by a lot, and he's going to win the popular vote.
That's the part.
People would be, that's the people you need to realize, like people that think he's Hitler, this, like, no, the majority of voters disagree with you. So you gotta face that.
And now the left is trying to pretend that it was voter fraud. Have you seen that? Dino Badala.
Oh yeah, I was arguing with someone on Facebook that suggested it was voter fraud.
Which I love that they're suggesting that because they were so outraged that Republicans suggested it, and now they're doing exactly the same thing.
Listen,
You know, this is a big, I mean, a kind of a victory blow for the elderly because his greatest triumph is at 78 years of age.
Yeah.
So, you know, that
it is wild.
So for anybody that thinks that it's over, you
But
know,
I
after
think that you
50,
really have to be so out of touch with what's going on in this country to be so shocked,
Right.
right? Like you just need to like go through the country a little bit. I spent a week in South Dakota this summer, and I was like, Trump is
a lot of windmills.
fully winning this election.
Yeah, exactly.
But nobody
Because the
predicted.
state with the fewest people was going to vote for him.
No, but like you can just. I mean, first of all, like you take it as like a sampling of what's going on in the rest of America. I think South Dakota is like maybe kind of an extreme example.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, but I just want to.
You just want to say that I'm
no,
wrong.
I want to be a prick and say the following. There's never been an election where you could have gone to South Dakota that you wouldn't have seen the Republican and
Well,
gonna
that's
win.
fair.
The difference is what changed in other places. And I mean, all those swing states. He ran the table in every single swing state.
Listen, this guy's like a brilliant showman. We were saying this the other day that like you were saying that it's not just policy and it's the ability to go out there and connect with your crowds and talk to the people. And, you know, I'm not a fan of Trump and I never have been, but like you can't deny
But since October 7th, she's a little bit warmer to him.
No. I'm not warmer to him. I'm just colder toward
you
the
were
Democrat.
considering not voting for president, which is a big deal for you.
I was considering not voting for president at all. Instead, I wrote Cat Williams' name in.
Because of October 7th.
Yeah, because of the Jews.
So you didn't vote for Kamala.
I didn't vote. I wasn't going to vote for anyone.
You voted for Kat.
I voted for Cat
Now, you're
Williams.
not Jewish, are you?
No.
Does she look even remotely
I'm not Jewish.
like even partially Jewish to you?
But you never know.
Yeah, she could be Jewish.
I mean, you can't look Jewish if we learned anything from October 7th.
Nobody.
Doesn't look Jewish, but I've seen Jews who look less Jewish.
Occasionally, if they were adopted.
No, come on. What does that even mean to look Jewish? I mean, does it look like a traditional Ashkenazi Jew? Okay.
Is what?
What does it mean to look Jewish? Like a traditional Ashkenazi white Jew?
Or she doesn't look like a Sephardic Jew either. She looks like Eastern European, which is what she is.
Scarlett Johansson's Jewish.
Yeah, half.
Kat could be Jewish.
I'm not,
Yes,
not
she
Jewish,
could
right?
be. If she did a 23andMe, maybe there's 1%. And even that would.
Can we talk about the Jews?
Well, what more? That's all we talk about anyway.
Well, I'd like to hear,
What's going on in Amsterdam?
for example.
Are you aware of that? You probably don't care. You're not Jewish.
Well, I don't think you're the only
Was
person.
that loser comic you dated that abused you Jewish?
He was not Jewish.
Okay, good.
I was at a dermatologist before the election.
Jewish.
And she's Jewish.
Yeah.
And of course. And she said to me, like, she's like, where do you work? And I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, you don't want to tell the dermatologist because then it's like this whole thing. And I told her I worked at Fox, and she was like, I had a cluster of spider veins on my legs that I wanted to get injected. So that's what I was doing. So she's injecting my spider veins. So she's literally like got a needle and she's injecting me while we're having this conversation. And she was like, well, you know, she was like, I watch Fox News. Like, this was like after October 7th, like a few months after October. And she's like, yeah, because da, 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 da. And I feel like there's a lot of that whispering going on.
What do you think, though, as just a person who you are, about like the anti-Semitism and all of the insane?
I'm against anti-Semitism.
Well, that's good. Thank you. Because that's not a given anymore.
I guess not. I mean, so I'm a huge free speech person. So I a lot of the even hateful things that were being said on college campuses, they do count as First Amendment protected free speech, right? So I did say that. I did get a lot of shit for that because I was consistent about that. It does not go unnoticed to me that it was the first time we ever heard a lot of these university presidents giving a shit all of a sudden about free speech. Some of the same schools that ranked like last in free speech were the ones that were like, oh, when it came to that. So, I mean, you have to notice stuff like that, right?
No, they played us. I mean, I agree with you. I'm a free speech person. But I didn't like...
And of course, like some of the camping is not free. Like, you know, some of the, can't get to class. Like, that's not speech.
I didn't like their appeal to free speech as their excuse for allowing it to go on.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I've always been a free speech person. They had never been free speech people. They were like, okay, you can't have this conservative speaker on campus, but you can have this, you know.
And we know that since then it came out that like Schumer was speaking, in back channels with the university. What's the name? Who was the president of Columbia? Shafiq. Is that anyway? Saying like, just hold on till the election. This is really just Republicans who care about this stuff. So
It's not true. That is certainly not true.
There was no
Yeah.
concern about free speech behind our backs. Schumer wasn't saying, "Listen, you have to do this because we care about free speech." It was all strategizing. So they wanted to. They came up with the result that they wanted. And how are we going to explain this? Well, we'll say it's free speech. Free speech has nothing to do with what
I would like to see another group of people being run off of campus, locked in buildings, chased down, and everybody just shutting the fuck up about it. Because you would not see it happen.
No, of course not.
Well, anyway,
I mean, with the amount of things on college campuses over the past few years that were not acceptable and not allowed, that's why it's to hear from those people specifically
Right.
Oh, are you for real?
Somebody got like kicked out of law school for misgendering someone. Right? Like, give me a fucking break.
That's my point. There's no live and let live. Gutfeld must get a good.
Is he Jewish?
Anti-Semitic.
I think
I think he is.
I think partial.
Yeah, like,
why are
it's
you
his
saying it
mom.
like that?
Isn't that a Jewish name? Gutfeld?
It is
Yeah.
a Jewish name.
Yeah. I would think so. Feld usually is, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
anything with
You
a
guys
Feld-
are like making it like it's so obvious who's Jewish and who isn't.
He's got a Jewish name and he's a Jewish look and a Jewish speech.
Gonna
He
look
looks.
it up. Kat doesn't even know.
He's Jewish. Like he has a. But I don't really know how it works. Where it's like the parent that doesn't count as Jewish, is that, right? Isn't that like a
he's
thing?
half?
So he's
He's half.
I think he's partial.
Look it up.
How it works,
I'm looking at
according to Jewish law,
Your mom has to be Jewish. Is that it?
your mother has.
Okay. See, I know more than I'm giving myself
He's not.
credit for. His
Gutfeld
dad.
was
how it-
raised, he was
wait.
raised Roman Catholic.
Yes.
Oh.
He was raised Roman Catholic, but his dad was Jewish.
The same as Bill Maher. Bill Maher's. No, Bill
I was also
Bill Maher's
raised Roman
mother,
Catholic.
He was Jewish, whatever. But
All those Jewish genes are.
I want you to apologize for that sneer.
Sorry. Anyway, he must get a lot of anti-Semitic hate mail. People assume he's Jewish,
I think people do assume. I mean, Gutfeld is his last name, so yeah. I mean, but
and he doesn't
it's-
look like Matthew Broussard.
but also I feel like the
Matthew Broussard does not look that un-Jewish to me. When you look at him with a trained eye that I have, he doesn't look ridiculously un-Jewish.
Some people have gaydar. Dan has
And
Judar.
and Kat does. So that's the difference there.
I look ridiculously un-Jewish.
That's correct.
Okay.
Which, by the way,
I'm Polish,
Which, by the way,
German.
you can say that. What you can't say to somebody is, "You look ridiculously Jewish," because that's offensive. And the reason that's offensive is because we're not a people known as hot.
I don't think that's why that's offensive.
Okay.
On that note, anything else you want to tell us?
No, I mean,
Your
buy
book.
my books.
Yeah.
Yeah, buy my
Your
book.
books.
Buy my book. I have
Oh.
a lot of answers to these questions and problems in my second book.
There it is.
And
Yeah, but
I look great in that
I used
picture.
to like you until. How about you say in your book, by the way, that you can look ugly,
Yeah, I can't.
which I find hard to.
Oh, you should. I'm wearing fake hair right now. Fake lashes. A lot of makeup.
I mean, you don't say ugly, but you say you can look
Yeah.
unglamorous.
yeah. Mhm.
Well, I'll have to take your word for it because I'm
Yeah.
not saying that.
There's a lot of fun stories in the book too, as you know. The
It's a
girl,
great
the
cover.
girl in the first chapter, she's Jewish actually.
The one that you had
Yeah,
overnight with?
she's well more than one overnight, but
Okay.
yeah, it was like how much time? I mean, that's a whole story, but
Well,
yeah,
One
it's
of your
different.
lovers?
Yeah,
The one
I
whose
dated
mom
more. I
freaked
dated more
out.
than one Jewish girl actually.
Were they annoying?
No, I guess I was into it. The two girls that I dated the most seriously, they were Jewish actually. Now that I think, I just occurred. I never thought about it before.
I think that's getting viral on.
But that wasn't the reason her parents didn't like you.
No, that was not. It was Fox News. Yeah.
Although if you didn't work for Fox News, well, they probably wouldn't care because once your kid is gay, you're not
Never, my whole life, I never had a Jewish girlfriend. I don't think.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I never. I mean, maybe it's like a summer camp thing, but kissy.
But you as somebody who's so into the notion of the continuation of the Jewish people, such that you push your kids into Hebrew school, they don't want to go.
The heart wants what the heart wants, as a famous goy said.
And what does the heart want? A hot Puerto Rican?
Yeah, the heart wants.
Anyway, the book. Well, the book is no longer on the screen, but it's.
Put it back up. Put it back up. Let's just.
I used to like you until.
First of all, your hair looks dark there.
Yeah.
And Cat Timpf is butt-ass naked.
I'm naked. I'm in underwear.
Are you really naked?
Yeah, I'm really naked. I have underwever on, and that's it.
It's a great.
I got pregnant right after this picture, so I'm glad because like that waist, you can't see it anymore. But covered in hate mail, which is the idea behind the cover is vulnerability in the face of hatred, which is what I demonstrate through the book. Because I think once we can share the human stuff about ourselves, we're more willing to see each other as humans, and I certainly share a lot in the book about myself.
Well, yes, you do. And I think it's a great help also to women that you reveal that you were in an abusive relationship.
Yes, yeah.
I think would be of some comfort. If Cat Timpf can fall prey, then, then anybody can. We thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We do have.
I picture a man saying, listen, if Cat Timpf would stay in a relationship, you can certainly take it. No?
No.
Oh, they might.
Like if she,
she's
pretty, she's
and the guy wasn't even rich or famous.
No.
So I guess it could give hope, and that's true.
You too can abuse a woman.
You too can be an attractive, successful woman.
This is one of the things that really bothers me is that all the people we know who were ruined for various accusations, and this Doug Emhoff guy, very, very credible evidence, just hit his girlfriend so hard that she spun around, and he's totally invited to every Washington cocktail party. Nobody cares. That level of hypocrisy enrages me.
Yeah. Well, who knows what they're gonna do now? Those two, like they're probably not much.
Oh, she's done.
Yeah, she can't ever do politics anymore.
No, I mean,
she's not gonna run in 4 years.
No,
not after that humiliating.
No one likes her. She has zero constituency.
That's mean. No one likes you.
I just want to hear the stories. I've said this before, but I just want to hear the stories like the Eliza Doolittle type stories, like My Fair Lady, for that 5 weeks between the time that they announced her and she took her first interview. I just want to hear the stories about the people who were trying to tutor her, bring her up to speed, the ridiculous things she didn't know. I'm convinced we've never had a more mediocre candidate in our history ever.
I think George W. Bush was exactly,
no, if you read
top
about
of the
it,
class.
George W. Bush apparently was pretty bright. He had better SAT scores than Al Gore, and the people around him all said he was a smart dude.
It doesn't come
really?
out that way.
He had a all shucks kind of speech pattern. Listen,
I thought he was an idiot.
Listen, George Bush, I get it. Sometimes it's like they made fun of his strategery. Like he never said that, but you talk about like his malapropisms or something. Have you heard Kamala Harris speak? That word salad that she would speak in. Have you ever seen anything like that? We've never experienced anything. Anyway.
All right, Kat, we do offer half off on our food menu for our podcast guests.
Oh, great. I have to go home, though.
Okay.
I'm in Atlanta tomorrow.
Oh, you're performing? Or are you doing a book tour? Performing?
Yeah, performing.
You do stand-up?
I'm back at it again. Yeah, doing stand-up.
Is it stand-up but mixed in with cutting commentary?
I do stand-up, and then I do, I have a Q&A after.
Now, the abusive relationship wasn't Joe Mackey, was it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. You fucked me up real bad.
Well, no, the comic that you dated wasn't like
Nobody,
didn't
you
work.
have no idea who he is. Yeah, he didn't work.
He didn't work. Okay, Cat Timpf, thank you, everybody. See you next time. Bye.